We're about to get into smut fan fiction. You guys ready for One Direction fanfic novels?
Is that what you're into? Is that why you're bringing that up?
No, because I met a girl one time and on her date she showed me her writing and it was One Direction fanfic.
That's actually a really popular thing, especially with people our grade. Like we're in fucking middle school.
Art grade.
Everyone in our grade is doing it. Hey Beans.
Hey Beans.
It is Tori, your host.
And Patrick, your co-host slash professional interrupter. Well, not quite professional, but
You'll get there one day.
close enough. I'm an apprentice in training.
What kind of pay does that get?
Not enough.
Not enough. Not enough.
It's never enough, Tori.
That is what capitalism says, isn't it?
Yeah. Enough is never enough. I would say the sky's the limit, but, we're pushing for Mars, at the very least.
At least Bezos is.
Musk, really, is who I'm thinking about. But
Oh, I mean, they're all trying to colonize another planet, so...
Yeah.
All right, speaking of very weird creatures in strange places, we today are going to be talking about one of the books I read recently called The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. I found this book by... It was like part of a recommended section because of the books that I have been reading or that I'm interested in reading. I really want to get into more folk horror and existential horror. So I know we've talked about like Lovecraft before.
Yeah.
I don't like him as a person, but I like I really like heights, and I really like really deep oceans and very large, wide expanses. Like I just like it's almost it's a little scary, but it's a feeling of being small and almost like a lack of understanding. We're going to take a step back and do something on the Yellow King right now. So the King in Yellow. Which one? It's been a minute since I've...
Piss King.
In Yellow.
Piss time.
Oh, you said Piss King, not
Piss
his...
King.
I thought you said his king.
No, Piss King, dude. Pissy King.
Okay. So the King in Yellow, or the Yellow King, is a collection of short stories. Those short stories revolve around this idea of this entity that is almost revered like a deity. And it's the king. And it's like there's like symbols like the sign of the king and just different things and like books and almost like eldritch horror that is kind of looming and weaving itself through all of these stories. I found out that the writer actually mostly wrote like romance novels. And so this one being it, I don't know if it was at the time, but it definitely now is considered more of a horror, genre. But like when you read the short stories, you learn bits and pieces of the society and the world in which, everything's being shown through, but you never get this like really full picture.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost, and it's a good effect of feeling like you are constantly on the fringes of these stories instead of like a Tolkien book where the whole point is to immerse you.
Right.
It's not immersive. It is almost like you are trying so hard to catch every little bit of information so you can put a world together, and it's still very unknown. So, and to that point, there's a lot of New Age Lovecraftian fiction that is very similar. Sometimes you can get a good story that has that underlying unknown, because obviously we as humans are supposed to know very little about like Cthulhu and ancient gods or whatever. But there is, just a lot left to the imagination. There was one story, I'm not going to go over the King in Yellow or whatever right now because I'd have to definitely do a refresh if we were to really talk about it. But there was one short story that was about couple. No. It was two men and a woman. And And the woman was supposedly in love with one of the men, but they were all friends. And she got sick, like, really bad, and the one that was, like, she wasn't in love with, quote, unquote, he was, like, a scientist or an artist, I can't remember, and he was creating this liquid that would petrify anything that it got immersed in, or anything that got immersed in it. So, kinda like embalming fluid, but it's not, it was
Yeah.
just like a static liquid.
Right.
So, he would create all of these things with that liquid, and he would start putting, like, live things in it, and it would petrify them. It would turn them into, like, not it wouldn't turn them into a statue, they would look just as if they were about to, like.
Yeah, frozen in time.
Yeah,
Like something frozen under ice.
exactly, and he ended up making an entire pool of this liquid,
Hmm.
like, filling a pool with it. So, this woman, you know, it was 2 men and a woman, they were friends. She had been in a relationship with one of them, and then the other one was the artist or the scientist, I can't remember. And she fell very ill. She had, like, a really bad fever or whatever, and she was just extremely ill, and she accidentally told both of the men that she loved the artist or the scientist instead of the one she was with. And she said it, like, in her fever, and so it
Yeah.
was supposed to be like, oh, she wasn't in her right mind or whatever. Anyway, long story short, she jumps into the pool.
Hell yeah.
Why are you smiling?
Oh yeah. I was waiting for it. Somebody's getting put in the pool.
Someone's in the pool. She jumps in the pool, and then one of the guys, God, it's been so long since I've read it. One of the guys kills themselves or something. And then the other one finds out that apparently all of these creations that were submerged in this liquid are only static for a set amount of time, and
Hmm.
then they come back to life.
Oh,
So she actually ends up coming back to life, and it's very Romeo and Juliet-esque,
yeah.
but it has this undercurrent that has a lot to so it's kind of like a love story. Again, the author was a romance writer for the most part. So it does have this general love story, but an undercurrent of things being a little nefarious.
Right.
Especially when this dude's, like, dropping animals into this fucking liquid that he thinks is killing them.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyway, so now that we're past that Lovecraftian situation, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I know that we are getting into, like, folklore.
Yeah.
So this book is. Well, okay, let's do trigger warnings before we get too far. So, the trigger warnings for this book that I have written down are indications of sexual assault and forced reproduction. Yeah, it's not nice. And I say sexual assault, so rape, and it ties into the forced reproduction. But nothing happens in the book, and there is no graphic detailing. It is simply referenced when someone's explaining a backstory.
Okay.
So, just to give an idea of the severity there.
Right.
There's also, death. It is more of a morbid horror story, but it's very typical. Nothing extreme. And honestly, that's one of the things, like, it's one of the nitpicky things I have about the story, is a lot of it is very bland to me.
Yeah. No cool deaths. Yeah.
No
No
cool
Mary
deaths.
Poppins off the top of a
Yeah.
rooftop and
Well, and it wasn't until, like, the last maybe third of the book that I really got into some, like, interesting weird stuff.
mm,
But I know there was a lot of buildup, and you knew
okay.
something was going on,
Yeah.
but we'll get more into it. So, the author is T. Kingfisher. I think I said K. Kingfisher, and when I was, like, telling people that we were gonna do this book, that's a pseudonym.
Okay.
So, T. Kingfisher is actually Ursula Vernon. She is a children's writer.
Nice.
She didn't want, like, parents to get confused if they like, when they're reading the book, be like, "Isn't this the same woman that wrote my kid's book?" You know?
Yeah, like a sausage party incident.
"Oh,
You
no!"
know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the movie where everyone was like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
a
It's a
cartoon."
animated cartoon movie, and
Uh,
it's just
Hot
adult
dogs
humor
fucking.
fucking yeah.
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 So, she is an artist as well as a writer.
Mhm.
So very multi-talented.
Yeah.
She's made graphic novels, and when I was doing research, she said like, there were a bunch of notes online to look at one called Digger, and apparently that's a good one.
Yeah.
Her art style isn't necessarily my favorite, but, like, I do appreciate it. But one thing and I don't actually know if she does them. You know what? Actually, no. I know she doesn't do all of them at least, but her book covers are really cool. So, every time I've seen one of her book covers, the book cover for the Twisted ones was a little meh, little lacking, but she has this book called What Moves the Dead, and you may have even seen, like, advertisements for it because the art is very prominent. It's actually been on my reading list for a good bit of a time because, like, the cover pulls you in. But Christina Mrazek made the cover. I hope I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but the cover is amazing. Like, chef's kiss, wonderful work. This book, I believe, is written in, like, 2019, and the setting is North Carolina, and it's, like, very modern folk horror.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna dive into the story now. We have the main character, and her name is Melissa, but throughout the book, she is only referenced to, for the most part, as Mouse,
Okay.
so that's how I'm gonna reference her.
Okay.
She's a woman in her 30s, and she's a book editor, and everything about this character is very average. She seems average intelligence, average looks, just a woman, just, like, a very relatable character is what it's put forward as.
Okay.
Her dad, who is really sick, asked her to go clean out her grandparents' house after her grandmother passes away. Her step-grandfather, Cotgrave, he had already passed away during the years that Mouse was in college, and her grandma was the only, like, member person of the family that was left living in that house. So, there was really no one else to pick up the pieces other than her and her father once her grandmother passed. But like I said, he's sick, he's not doing well, and he asked her to go do this thing, and when he calls and he asks her to do it, he's like, "You can." It's one of those things where, a family member asks another family member to do something, and it's like, they know that they're asking something that's maybe a little heavy,
Yeah.
but the family member that is getting asked is like, "I know this person knows it's heavy, and they wouldn't ask me unless, like, they
They
really needed
needed
me
it.
to."
Yeah.
And she didn't have, like, it seems like she thought her grandma was a bitch, and she was not a big fan, but she was like, "This is my family, this is something I need to take care of for the most part." And, Cotgrave, which is kinda how we're gonna refer to her step-grandfather, so she obviously had her grandfather who was originally, her bio grandfather who was with this grandmother that passed away. And then that grandfather died, and then she remarried to the step-grandfather, Cotgrave. She seems to have, like, okay memories, if anything, of Cotgrave, but, you know, she just remembers him passing away while she was in college, and at first we don't really get too much information about him. So she's like, "Whatever, let me drive out there," because it's, like, kinda out in the boonies,
Right.
out in the hills, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And she takes her dog, Bongo, with her.
Bingo bango.
He's a hound dog,
Oh. Hoo.
and he is my favorite character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bongo.
Well, so him and Foxy are my favorite characters, I think.
Is Foxy another pet?
Nope, Foxy's a woman. You'll learn more about Foxy in the future.
Okay.
We don't get too much of a backstory on the character herself, Mouse, the main character. We basically get, like, a running start, right? We know why she's going to this. We don't know what her life was like. We don't know what her childhood was like. We know kind of what her present day stuff is, but we don't know too much.
Right.
She works from her laptop. Like I said, she's an editor. So she is, she's like, okay, I'm going to go do this and I'm just going to work while I'm doing this, try to make it all okay. She talks about her work and how one of her big pet peeves is grammar. And people, obviously, if you're editing books all the time, that's got to be one of your big skill sets is detecting incorrect grammar. But it just really bothers her when even little things are incorrect. She also talks in this monologue that she's kind of giving us about an Aunt Kate. Aunt Kate was a botanist, and whenever Mouse sees a certain plant or something like that, she'll point out what it is, and she'll talk about how she learned that from Aunt Kate. Now, in the very beginning, when she's telling the story, it's put almost not necessarily as a found footage, more like she's writing a letter to someone.
Okay.
And then by the end of the book, it's like probably more present time.
Okay.
So, I mean, you kind of know from the beginning of the book that she's going to make it through.
Yeah.
Or that someone has found, or that it would be like a found letter after she died.
Okay.
So she gets there and she's going through the house and she's cleaning and she's kind of looking through things, but her grandmother was a hoarder and she's like pretty grossed out. When she walks in, she knew that it was going to be a tough job, but the like mountains of stacked like newspapers and just all kinds of shit. Like there's a room that's just full of like doll parts. And it's, almost the way that it's described is already kind of a creepy vibe.
Yeah.
Kind of like going into, did you see, what is it? The Haunting of...
Hill House?
No, it's The Haunting of like a woman's name, but it's like an older woman.
Melody or Mallory Rose?
No.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name though, but it's the old lady who's like...
I think she has dementia.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty
Comes
scary.
to find out that she's like possessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're putting up the cameras and she's watching them. How they putting up the cameras.
Yeah. And there's like a jump scene at the end, or a jump scare at the end that's pretty scary.
How about the scene where she's in the dark and she like...
Don't ruin it for people. Oh, wait. This is all about spoilers. Never mind. Go ahead and ruin it.
She's like in the dark and like rips her mouth open or something like that, or she's just...
She did have like a unhinged jaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spooky. Yeah, God. I want to say it's like Meredith or something.
Can't remember.
I can't remember either. Anyway, she talks about like what she's going through and organizing and trying to like get everything cleared out. And she's pretty grossed out because a lot of it's just icky and, it's a real life tough thing of...
It's like old people hoarder shit.
Well, almost, it's definitely more extreme.
Yeah. Well, you never knew my grandmother, but her house was...
like that.
Yeah. Probably not as extreme, but it was bad.
Do you remember how Mona had that room in the front of the house? My grandmother, Mona, how she had that room in the front of the house that like had crafts and books and stuff. That was, to me, a little excessive. Not in a hoarder way necessarily, but like holding on to a bit too much. I have actually known a friend who was a hoarder, but it was not organized. There was no like groups of things. It was just stuff.
Never is.
Well, the way it's depicted in here is organized. It's not like perfectly organized or
loosely
anything.
organized. It's like,
yeah,
that's where all the baby body parts go.
Right. Well, the friend I knew, she did not. I mean, there was no sense of organization at all.
Yeah, my grandmother's was loosely organized.
Loosely organized.
She didn't have baby body parts, but she had baby dolls, a ton of Shirley Temple dolls, a ton of...
I know we're on the same page that we're talking about baby dolls, but you did say baby body parts.
Yeah, I mean, the butcher room, everybody has one of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a total 50s hobby. No.
With eyes floating in jars.
Yeah, right. No, like the baby doll parts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant.
My grandma had a bit of that too.
Yeah, it was the old people thing, man. And
making dolls. Puppets.
She didn't make them. These were like bought. Like...
Oh, they were full dolls?
Yes.
Oh, my grandmother had, like, doll parts, like, she was getting ready to make them. I don't
No.
think she ever did, but she had it.
That's some Wiccan shit. Like, putting the...
She did have a purple door on her garden room,
There you
so,
go.
hey.
She's putting,
But she didn't like that witchy shit.
putting the voodoo bundle inside the doll's chest and then building the doll around it.
Yeah, that's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll love this book. So eventually she, is going through everything, and this is like a pretty big house. And she finds a room that is not entirely cluttered with bullshit. She realizes after taking a look around that it's Cotgrave's room, the step grandfather.
Okay.
It's pretty obvious when she goes in there that her grandmother didn't really touch this room.
No.
This was kind of left alone as his space almost in perpetuity.
Right.
Then she finds a black book and she's like about to throw it away, and she just sees this line of text that makes her pause, and it just says she's hidden the book. And as she's like going to throw away, she sees that and she's like, what? And then she looks at it and she starts flipping through it, and she realizes that this is a journal. This was Cotgrave's journal. And she's flipping through the book and she finds like some really strange passages. There's like a few lines that get repeated often throughout the book, and they go like this.
I make faces, like faces on the rocks. I twist myself about, like the twisted ones. And I laid down flat on the ground, like the dead ones. I know what he's talking about.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. He's talking about earthworms that get stuck on the sidewalks.
Oh,
rainstorm.
he's talking about earthworms. Well, she didn't think that. She did not make that connection.
She's dumb. She's of average intelligence. Obviously, I am above average intelligence, so that's why I know.
Mouse finds herself drawn to the book, and she's reading through these musings, and she starts thinking about the Cotgrave, and she's like, in his final years, he was pretty riddled with dementia, and she's like, that's probably where a lot of this is coming from.
Yeah.
And she mostly writes it all off just as like really strange, but she doesn't throw away the book. After she, gets through a good bit of cleaning around the house, she visits the local dump to get rid of a lot of stuff. And when she comes back, she meets a guy named Tomas. He's a very large man.
Oh, yeah?
Tomas is a big motherfucker.
Oh, Tomas. I thought you said Moss, like M-O-S-S. It's like, what's up with all these names?
Tomas.
Right? Okay.
He comes over and asks if the old lady knows that Mouse is moving all of her stuff out. And she introduces herself as the old lady's granddaughter. And he, they kind of laugh it off, and he's like, oh, he was trying to be a gentleman and try to make sure that no one was like ransacking this house. And he apparently like lives like across the way from her. And in the same way that, when you're living in the country, you don't, or rural areas in general, you don't really have neighbors. You have people that are kind of down the street from you.
Yeah.
It's a similar situation.
Okay.
He's the closest, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily close.
Right.
He asks if he can have the microwave she's preparing to throw away, and she says it's super old and she doesn't even know if it works. She feels really weird about giving him this old, trashy microwave. And he says it doesn't matter, it's newer than Foxy's. So she ends up giving him the microwave, and he offers to help her if she needs anything moved, because again, this is big, burly dude. So she keeps seeing these deer out in the woods surrounding her grandma's house. And there's one that's really limpy. He's like, it looks like maybe it's been hurt or, something, but it's still with the group. And Bongo hates it. Bongo will go crazy, and whenever he does, she's like, oh, it's the deer. It's that weird looking deer. There's also like trees that will kind of brush up against the house, and Bongo will also go crazy when that happens. It'll normally happen near like a window, and it's that scratchy sound, and Bongo don't like. So this is happening over like the course of a few nights. her and Bongo, Dream Team, they are, trying to knock stuff out. She's like, I need to get this done. Again, our main focus is on clearing this house. Then she meets Foxy. And Foxy is my favorite character. She is an older woman, and she is very... The best way I can describe her, I don't know if you've ever met someone who is like an older Southern lady, but not Southern in the way of thinking that they are... Not Southern in the prissy way,
Right.
but Southern in the been smoking since they were 3 years old,
Yeah.
cusses like a damn sailor,
Yeah.
but also has that almost like inner confidence that is so strong it makes you just kind of like follow them.
Yeah.
They are in charge of the room, and it's almost like an old soul situation. Like,
Yeah.
Foxy is someone that is motherly, but at the same time just a very strong, fun person.
Yeah.
Foxy and Tomas live together with a guy named Skip. Skip is bipolar, and Foxy and Tomas kind of help him through it. And when I say help him, like, they just know him very well. They know when he's going through a bender. They know when he's like coming off of, the highs or dealing with the lows, and they just keep him grounded. Well, Foxy tells her, she's like, you don't need to be messing around in them woods. And Mouse is like, huh, because Mouse had went in the woods. She had taken a walk, and she ended up somewhere unknown. Based on the area that she was in, there's no way she could have ended up in the area she was. She ended up after taking the walk, and she had Bongo with her. Bongo actually kind of led her towards this plateau situation where there were really weird looking rocks. And the rocks looked like people that were twisted into these contorted, terrifying poses. So she's seeing all of this, and she doesn't know where she is. She's like, there's no plateau around here. There's no way I could have, like, went up to this elevation. This doesn't even look like the same area I was in. And at some point, she's looking at these stones, and she's getting almost dizzy by looking at them, and she tries to imitate some of the faces that they're making, and she feels herself start to contort in ways that she shouldn't be able to. And she eventually makes it back. She eventually comes back, and when she's talking to Foxy and she's talking to Tomas, she starts, saying, do you guys know of any place like that? She's asking these things, and Foxy is like, you need to get out of here. And she's not, Foxy is, like, very supportive. She's not extreme or anything. She's very kind. Like, they click very quickly.
Yeah.
But Foxy is very protective, and she's like, I'm just telling you.
You don't need to be doing all that.
Yeah, we know what's down yonder in them woods, and you don't want to find out. So, Foxy tells Mouse that Skip is coming down from a bin. He's been on a high with his mental illness, and it's very cool kind of how they talk about it. It's like they talk about his condition, and they don't shame him or act like he's just like this pariah or anything.
Yeah.
They're just like, this is something our friend struggles with, and this is how we help him. So one night, as her and Bongo are in bed, she hears something, and it's like and she's kind of like looking around, and she looks outside, and right outside the window is the limping deer, but it's hoisted over the window, and she can see inside a manufactured rib cage of bones and string and leaves and branches, these rocks that are kind of floating, and that's what keeps hitting the window.
Hmm.
The creature seems to want to get inside. The creature is not it's like it's looking, but it's also like, oh, there is intention to get in here.
Right.
And Bongo has not freaked out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Bongo does freak out sometimes. And he has been freaking out about this deer. You know, finally someone having an intelligent thought in a horror book. She's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Fuck this shit. Like, we can just burn down the house at this point.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So she, like, gets her stuff and she's ready to go. And of course, this is in the morning, obviously. She's not going out there when the deer is, like, ready to fucking eat her.
Yeah.
She gets her stuff and she opens the door to head towards her truck and Bongo runs away.
Damn it, Bongo.
Can't you just see one of our dogs doing that?
Oh, yeah.
You're being chased by an eldritch horror that looks like a maimed deer that's rotting, and one of your dogs just runs off into the woods.
Yeah.
So she goes looking for Bongo, and she can't find Bongo. No telling where Bongo is. She kind of thinks that maybe it took Bongo after he ran off. So she goes to Foxy and Tomas and Skip, and she's like, I know this is hard to believe, but this is what I saw, and I tried to leave, and now Bongo's gone, and I can't leave without Bongo. And Foxy says that they will stay the night with her, as she's like, during the day trying to find Bongo, and then also, obviously, they're staying there during the night just in case Bongo comes back. So, first, Foxy is the only one that stays the night with her. And they try to, do certain things to kind of stay up, and they have it kind of set up so that they can be in the bathroom and be kind of like a little bit more protected, like an interior bathroom from the deer.
Right.
Well, they see the deer. They don't see any sign of Bongo, but they do see the deer. And it is pretty terrifying. But Foxy handles it pretty well, and so does Mouse, honestly. And then the next night, they all stay the night. Skip, Tomas, and Foxy. And the deer shows up again. But of course, we still have no sign of Bongo. And they all kind of talk, and I can't remember, either Foxy or Tomas kind of make the comment of, we'll do this until such and such, and it's kind of a gentle way to say we may have to abandon Bongo. Obviously, that's something Mouse doesn't want to do, but at the same time, she can't just let herself and all of these people get killed, or whatever the deer has planned, right? So, next morning, Bongo shows up. After all of this very tense happenings that he has caused. And obviously, Mouse is overjoyed. Now, throughout this, before she saw the deer, we're doing all this cleaning and stuff, but throughout that, we learn a lot through Cotgrave's journal that I haven't talked too much about. It's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. She's reading it, and some days it seems like he was pretty lucid. Some days it seems like the dementia was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it is just kind of really out there, and she doesn't understand where it comes from. But it seems like this journal that he is writing what he can remember. And it's a lot of the stuff that he's writing down that he, quote unquote, can remember is from a different book. And I think it's the Green Book. And that is the book that she being her grandmother, has hidden. Yeah. And he talks about the Green Book, and we kind of piece together that maybe it is either a journal or another, just an older book. And these writings that he keeps repeating to himself, he says when he repeats the writings, it kind of helps him. It, calms him.
Right.
He'll make comments about, I can go 3 days without starting to recite. And there are other things here and there that she's learning about her step-grandfather that she did not know that much about. So, in this journal that he's writing, and he's, also talking about day-to-day with her grandmother, which he is fucking miserable, let me tell you. He starts drawing Kilroy. Do you know what Kilroy is?
No.
Will you look it up real quick?
Ha. Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen that before?
Yeah, the little... Yeah.
So, I didn't know that that was a real thing.
Yeah, it's a World War II graffiti. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it says Kilroy, and I'm like, what is this from? And, I did some research on it, and it's like, oh, this was something that they were drawing, like you said, what, World War II?
Yeah.
And,
Roy was here.
yeah. And that was something that Cotgrave was drawing in his book. Well, so when Bongo shows up, she obviously scoops him up, and she's like, oh, my little hound, like, she's so happy. But then she checks out his collar, and there is a note that's been slid into his collar, and it has a drawing of Kilroy and says, please help. The only person she can think of is Cotgrave.
Right.
And she's like, what is going on? How did this get here? Who needs help? Where are they? If it's Cotgrave, how is he alive? How would he be alive? All these questions. And even though the smartest decision would have been to probably leave and burn the house down, Foxy and Mouse decide that they are going to go into the woods and let Bongo lead them to the Holler people. Holler people is how Foxy describes these strange people that are in the woods. Also, earlier in the book, very beginning of the book, when she's first taking her walk with Bongo, she sees this woman who is extremely pale and looks kind of like out of place. But we literally just get that glimpse of her. We don't know anything about that woman. She's thinking it's just another woman walking in the woods. So they let Bongo kind of lead them through the forest, thinking, oh, he's been here multiple times now. He's going to know how to get us there. And they start going through this, like, overgrown tunnel. And Foxy is grabbing on to Mouse, and she is telling Mouse, like, I can feel them trying to keep me out. And Mouse can't feel that. Mouse is, like, being pulled towards whatever's happening, and Foxy is just grabbing tightly onto Mouse and saying, she has, like, that intuition.
Yeah.
And she is saying, whoever they are, they don't want me here, but I'm coming. And they both make it through after a very difficult hike in. They end up walking for a very long time looking for the, maybe the stones of the twisted ones, or any sign of a person that might need help or civilization of any sort. And they finally are met by Anna. And when Anna shows up, there are a bunch of effigies that are followed with her. Now, this is like the deer. This is creatures that are just an amalgamation of what they once were.
Right.
Whether that's, they've got a birdhouse for a head, or they've got any random thing that could be tossed. It creates this
Island of Misfit Toys, but for animals.
Sort of, yeah. But it's described in an almost grotesque way.
Yeah.
Because they're, like, basically they're using sinew and they're using muscle to bind together what should not be bound together.
Right.
And these effigies are following Anna, and they meet Foxy and Mouse, and they are obviously not happy. Anna ends up taking them to the, like, Holler people's land, basically. And they go, and they are basically imprisoned. And the only people they have seen, so they've seen all of these effigies, tons and tons of them, but the only people they've seen, quote-unquote Holler people, are Anna and Uriah. Anna is a woman, probably the woman from the beginning of the book, very pale, very otherworldly.
Right.
And then we have Uriah, and Uriah is a ancient-looking man. Painfully ancient. Anna and the effigies take Foxy, Bongo, and Mouse to this imprisonment. And Anna kind of tells them, we are going to decide your fate. Or it's time to decide your fate. Something along those lines. Well, Anna sneaks in to the imprisonment. And she's like, you're not supposed to be here. And she's talking to Foxy. And Foxy's like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to be here? And Mouse is like, what is going on? We got this note, but she's like, I sent that note. Or I don't remember if she expressly says that she sent the note, but she is basically like, you are in danger. Like, this is not going to end well for you. This is not how things were supposed to work out. You are not okay here. And she is telling them that she is trying to escape. She would like to escape with them. And that it is going to be very difficult, and they have like one chance to go. Well, Anna's like, the effigies come back in, and Anna's like, all right, per our decision, you will be taken to the building. And they start walking towards this. If I remember correctly, it's almost like a hornet's nest. And they start walking into it, and it is more effigies than the human mind can comprehend, taking things apart and putting them back together into these amalgamations. They are constantly remaking themselves. Not a set amount, they're making more. It is almost like the people of that land had a robot factory that was creating more robots, but it is instead these effigies that are repopulating and creating more and creating more and creating more. And the whole time Mouse is thinking, this is so weird. Where are the people? Where are people? Because it looks like a city, but it's empty other than Uriah and Anna. There is a type of judgment that is happening that Mouse does not quite understand. Anna seems to understand it. Anna's kind of like paying attention, and she can hear them talk, but she doesn't understand what they're saying. And basically, the effigies are convening and saying that the girl, being Mouse, is not good enough because she is not part Holler people. You kind of piece that together from what's happening, but you can tell it's almost like a moment of judgment. And something is going to happen because this judgment has happened. Immediately, once this decision is made, Anna starts stalking off, and then she starts running. And Foxy and Mouse follow her. And as she runs straight to Uriah, and she stabs and kills him. And Mouse and Foxy, no idea what's going on, and they do their best to just keep up with her and follow her. Then, Foxy pulls out a gun.
Let's see what my 38 special's got to say about that.
100%. And they're running away, and they're having a really hard time keeping up with Anna because she is familiar with these lands. She's also from my understanding, a very tall, graceful creature. And she is, running away. They're still trying to figure out what is happening. And Anna is pressing these effigies to take Mouse. She just wants them to take Mouse. And Mouse is figuring all this out, but she's like, what is happening? As they are running back to where the stones were, the twisted ones, so they can get back to the other realm, Foxy turns and ends up shooting one of the creatures.
Yeah.
And earlier in the book, there's a reference to say that Anna could not reproduce anymore. And the time she had tried, she had failed. And it's kind of put together that some of these creatures that are following her, some of them that have been around her this whole time, were either her failed children or they were her children that lived. And either way, Foxy just killed one of them.
Can I intervene with what my ADHD is telling me?
Yeah.
Foxy is totally those memes of people that have made Dolly Parton and like Photoshop gigantic swords in her hands and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly what
That's what
is
Foxy
happening.
is in my brain. Is that picture? It's like Dolly Parton and she's got like a fucking like Cloud from Super Smash Bros. Sword, just like massive.
I love how you say Super Smash Bros. And not Final Fantasy.
I didn't play Final Fantasy, so yeah. Sorry.
So or at least I think.
I think it is Final Fantasy.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I just find it interesting.
No, I'm not saying sorry to you. I'm saying sorry to the rest of the
To the
GP.
haters?
Listen to this. Yeah, they're gonna be like, God, fucking damn it.
Well, honestly, I'm thinking that Foxy kills. I didn't take good notes at this point because I was like really invested in the action that was happening. And I can't remember if actually Foxy is the one that shoots or if Anna is the one that shoots and gets the gun. There's a lot of like, we're falling. There's a lot of.
We just know somebody started blasting.
Anyway, so I started blasting.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get through there. I just think it's so funny when Foxy pulls out a gun.
She's like, I got this, boys.
Yeah, she was like, gotta be prepared.
Jesus Christ.
And so they're running away, and Anna is now talking about how she wants Mouse to stay, and she needs to go, and she's done her time. Well, it turns out that these effigies were created a long time ago by the Holler people. But the Holler people are no more. Maybe they are somewhere else, but in this dead city, in this transcended realm, they are absent. And the effigies, which were these machines left behind by these people, are trying to force a repopulation. So sometimes Holler people would sleep with regular people, and then you would get a, watered down bloodline of these quote unquote Holler people.
Right.
Cotgrave was one of these people.
A half-breed.
A half-breed. I don't think we should say that. That seems kind of mean.
That's how it's referred to in like all of like Skyrim, like any type of.
And there's actually like some discourse about that because like a lot of fantasy, like that's a whole thing with fantasy about how it's affected by this idea of like a master race often,
Right.
like the elves and like all that kind of stuff. And it just kind of mirrors this idea of white supremacy that's kind of infiltrated even our fantasy realms. But it is like a bloodline situation. And the effigies can tell that Mouse is not of the correct bloodline because, again, that's her step-grandfather. Anna doesn't know this. Anna thought that was her grandfather.
Yeah. Okay.
And Uriah, this old ancient man, was apparently, Anna and Uriah were forced to try to conceive children by the effigies to try to repopulate the area, ending up with Anna being pregnant numerous times, but very rarely actually being able to produce a child.
Okay.
And now she wants Mouse to take on that duty, but the effigies won't even accept Mouse because they're like, she is not of the bloodline that we want. So Anna's like at this point thinking, okay, well, I'm making a break for it anyway, and you're just gonna have to deal with her. And very much not trying to let Foxy and Mouse leave. And she even tells Foxy, she's like, I tried to keep you out of this. I tried to tell you to go away. And she's like, you're the person who's trying to pull me away from Mouse whenever we were going through. And she's like, yep. Because she's like, I just need the one. And I think that they just end up getting out before Anna can. Or maybe maybe Foxy shoots her in the leg. I don't remember exactly how it works out. But Foxy and Mouse get out. They get out of that realm with Bongo in tow. And I don't really remember what happens to Anna. I don't think it's ever like super clear. I think maybe the effigies take her back. And when we were reading Cotgrave's journal earlier in the beginning of the book, he originally finds out about quote unquote Holler people from like in a whole different country. So it's insinuated that these kinds of societies are alive throughout the world. It's almost like the realm of the Fae.
Yeah, it's like little portals, like little slipstreams that you can jump into and
Yep.
Okay.
And it's presented as kinda like the Fae and the Holler people are the same thing in different areas.
Okay.
And different communities have different, names for these kinds of folklore.
Well, did they explain, like, the attributes of the Holler people, like, what made them different compared to humans? It was a
It was very vague. It was always, like, strange people or because there were different names, but,
right,
like, just the strange people of the woods. It was, people that, like, Anna looked different, for
right.
one, but also they obviously were of an existence that was separate to humans.
It reminds me of I don't know why Skyrim has been in my brain so much, but it reminds me of dwarves in Skyrim. So, like, you could go through their ancient civilizations and their creations because, dwarfs are masterclass at crafting and engineering and design. And so they would create very elaborate systems that you had to explore and survive. Obviously the creations were making you fuck and like try and produce. So,
Yeah, no,
so
it was I feel in the story, I feel extremely bad for Anna.
yeah.
Because also from my understanding, so Cotgrave in his journals talks about the Green Book almost as if it is a journal from a girl who may have gotten carried away by these people. Maybe because she was either is Anna or is in the same position that Anna got placed in, where they find someone who is part of the bloodline or maybe even that they're interested in and they just kind of like changeling them away, you
Huh.
know?
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
the woman that wrote the Green Book, she just had all of this insight into this world that Cotgrave became infatuated with. But now we know that Cotgrave actually had a lineage connection.
Okay.
So they make it out of there and they get to the house and they're like, finally we're home free, and they're looking from the woods at the back of the house. And what do they see but the big fucking limpy deer hanging over the back of the house? They make a run for it, and they get inside the house, and they lock the door. They're thinking, kinda like the nights before, that hopefully the deer just won't get in the house. However, as soon as they get inside the house, they find a creature that comes out of the wreckage inside this hoarder house. And it is an effigy made of doll parts and coat hangers and thread and all of these discarded items. And it pops up from inside the house, and they see this emergence and basically go, "Oh fuck." And the deer effigy is trying to get in, and the amalgamation that's inside is angry and it is aggressive, and they're like, "We're gonna fucking die." Well, Mouse has this quick idea to set the whole place aflame.
Should have done that from the get go.
Yeah, she's like, "You know what? Actually, I'm tired of this shit. We're burning it down."
Logical.
What was that show we were watching where the dude turns around? It's the guy that plays the ghoul in Fallout, and he just sets the house on fire.
Oh,
I'm
Vice
burning this
Principals.
bitch to the ground.
Yeah, Vice Principals with David Goggins or Walton Goggins and Danny McBride.
God, that lives in my head rent free. Like,
About to set this bitch on fire. David McBride's like, what are we doing?
what
We're
have you
going
done?
there.
So, but as they are trying to set the place on fire and make this escape, Mouse realizes that the effigy that is trying to get into the house is Cotgrave.
Hmm.
It is his spirit in an effigy trying to get in. And she also thinks maybe the effigy that is made of all of the discarded parts is her grandmother. And if nothing else, she thinks that maybe Cotgrave made the effigy himself, because like in the hornet's nest or the building, so whenever they saw all of those effigies, they considered it the building, like a building,
Yeah.
the hornet's nest, but also the building as in the action of these effigies
Okay.
building each other.
Yeah.
And she thinks, maybe Cotgrave came in and he made his own effigy in his own house in, like, a remembrance of his life. That's just what she talks about at the end, but she sets the place on fucking fire. And her, Foxy, Bongo, they get out and they get to the cops and a hospital, and they, they have to kind of give a fake story because who was gonna fucking believe them?
Right.
And Foxy definitely leads the pack on that. She is explaining,
My fofo did the talking.
no, she's like, oh yeah, oh heavens, that fire it was a blaze, like the southern, just
Yeah.
not a southern
Damsel in
sweetheart.
distress.
Yeah. She's really laying it on thick about how, like, they can't imagine what could have happened, and that house was a fire risk anyway.
Should have seen all the baby parts. I mean, the baby doll parts in there.
So, well, and it's also funny thinking about the baby doll parts, thinking about all the children that had to be, discarded because they weren't alive when they were had from Anna.
Right.
It's, like, there's a lot of surface stuff that is brought into this book, and it comes across as very surface level because the main character that we're reading everything through, Mouse, is, again, very average. She is not, like, an expert in folklore. Neither is Foxy. None of these people have extreme version of, like, insight or, you know, there's so much that we don't know because of the narrator that we are given,
Right.
that you don't put a lot of these things together until the book is completely done.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very evident foreshadowing until obviously it happens and you're like, oh shit, okay, that's
what was happening the whole time.
They're almost kind of like Easter eggs because you
Yeah.
don't realize it until after the fact, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I'll kind of get to how I feel about that in just a second. I'm about to finish up the story.
Okay.
They get to the cops, they give their statements, they're at the hospital, they're getting, bandaged up from everything that's happened. They've taken some falls, they are worse for wear, except for Bongo. Bongo's fine. That is pretty much the end of the story. She wraps it up with, kind of explaining that she is writing this down, maybe not so someone will believe her, but so that she can process what has happened to her.
Right.
Just, you're kind of left with, like, okay, here it is. This is it. And so I really like how the story starts and stops, and it's pretty linear and set inside this time. So whenever the story begins, it obviously begins with her being asked to go do this task of cleaning her grandmother's house, and it ends with the house being burned down. And you don't know much of anything outside of the timeline that is happening in that book.
Okay.
So you see a little bit of, sometimes foreshadowing and sometimes her remembering things, but it's not, chapters upon chapters of going back and forth.
Yeah, backstory, and like it's very
cut and dry. This is what's happening right now.
That's easier for, I think, at least how my brain operates. That's a lot more easier for me to not get along with, but like comprehend. I do have a problem feeling like rubber banded between past, present, future, like
timelines. Yeah, and different perspectives sometimes in different books. This is very big about, again, being an average narrator, an average person who is going through a crazy event that she doesn't even really comprehend. So you as the reader can't fully comprehend because you're experiencing it through her point of view.
Right.
I thought that was a very interesting take. At first, I did not appreciate it to the extent that I do now. Because when I finished reading it, I was like, well, that was kind of boring. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, this writer, T. Kingfisher, or the pseudonym, she is writing in this style to have that portrayal, have that almost like a gotcha whenever you can put all the puzzle pieces together when you can step back. And she also doesn't, sometimes you read something and you're like, almost like you poke holes in things. Like you have a story that's quote unquote so complete that you're like, well, what about this? And this doesn't make sense. I know I do that.
Yeah.
But you can't really do that with her story because you, again, kind of like in Lovecraftian horror, you're given like almost this frayed edge of a story because there's got to be so much lore and what happened in this like realm of the Holler people or the Fae.
Yeah.
Like, why is this city abandoned? Why were the effigies even built? Why did they think it's so important to make Anna and Uriah reproduce? It was definitely different. I would like to read more from her before I make a final decision about her as an author. I see a lot of good things. I see a lot of things online where people are very much praising her books. And she seems also pretty prolific. So I'm very interested, especially What Moves the Dead. That's one that I want to read. I'm gonna get into more of the books. For this one, I'd probably give it maybe a 3.5 for me personally. I very intrigued by the style, but until we got to that very rapid part at the end where we're uncovering all of this, it was very slow going. And while, I'll trudge through anything, the fact that I had to kind of trudge through it and it almost made it to where at the beginning it didn't feel like a horror book. It felt like slice of life.
Yeah.
So how would you rate my review? How many beans do I get?
What kind of question is that?
It's the one you're going to get every time.
It's a 5 out of 5 bean.
Thank you, love.
There you go.
Can't wait for the day you're like, yeah, you really bombed this one.
Shit fucking sucked. This is the first 0 ever. I'm just kidding. Never going to happen.
Give me a 0. At least I put an effort. That's
you
worth
get a point 1. Point 1.
A 0.1.
0.1.
Wow.
It ain't nothing.
I'd really like to see more from this author. Also, this author, I believe, is like on the younger side.
Yeah.
Maybe not crazy young, but still on the younger side. So kind of up and coming.
He says, what, written in
2019, yeah.
Okay.
When I say up and coming, I'm thinking like not as old as like a James Patterson or a Dean Koontz.
Or a Stephen King.
Right. Not a classic, group. Classically, the authors that are grouped in as a classic horror.
And have their foundation and all this, yeah.
Yeah, she is popular, for sure.
Oh, yeah, but, yeah, it's refreshing, for sure, to see.
It was a fun read. It was, like, a pretty fun and light read. Again, there were some parts that I wish were a little bit faster or maybe a little bit more full, like fleshed out in the beginning. But I do think maybe she was trying to build to some extent. And I don't know at what point in her career this was written. Like we did say 2019, so that was a while ago. And maybe this was more of like one of her first. I don't know.
Definitely doesn't seem cookie cutter, which is
refreshing. You don't get enough Holler people. That is one thing. That is a hill I will die on. We don't get enough Holler people.
I don't get enough Hollers out here. That's for sure.
That's for sure. All right. Thank you so much for being here with me and allowing me to beansplain to you.
Talking to me or the beans?
Yeah.
Word?
You're my best bean.
I'm audience member number 1. The children would be 2, 3, and 4, but they don't know English.
They like listening to my voice, I'm sure. Yeah, I know. They're like, we need treats and pets. What y'all doing? All right. Well, I will see you guys in the next one. I believe we will be talking about a self-help book called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It is pretty popular, and I'm excited to kind of talk about it. I've got a lot of thoughts.
Nice.
All right. Bye-bye, beans.
Bye, beans.
Heyo. It's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow to get your weekly dose of beansplaining. Drop a review wherever you get your podcasts and let us know how we're doing. If you have any questions, complaints, or recommendations, please reach out to rinleyworks@gmail.com. That's RINLEEWORKS@gmail.com. Bye-bye, beans.